Oh, hello there. Can't a girl get some sleep? Still here? All right, if you insist. My name is Julia. I am a ranger, and this here is my wolf companion. His name is Kurt. Why don't you visit RPGmodsFan? I hear he has an interesting tale of a murder mystery. In the meantime, let me and Kurt get back to sleep.
Hello everybody, this is RPGmodsFan. In this walkthrough video, I will be reviewing the 8th adventure in the Candlekeep Mysteries Anthology book. This 5th edition D&D adventure is titled Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor. It was written by Derek Ruiz. My apologies, I probably mispronounced his last name. Derek lives in Mexico with his wife and 3 cats. His adventure is meant for 7th level player characters. Derek and his wife have 3 cats? I wonder if they have any trouble hurting them. The adventure starts with the player characters in Candlekeep. In this mystery adventure, the player characters investigate an unsolved murder. Within the stacks of Candlekeep, in a forgotten section, the adventurers will find a book that is the diary of a young girl named Sarah. The diary is haunted by her ghost, which manifests before the party. Player characters, roll for initiative. Is the ghost of Sarah benevolent or malevolent? Well, that is up to the player characters to find out.
Hello, my name is Alrond. I am the former keeper of tomes. Some time ago, the task of governing Candlekeep has been turned over to the Archmage Janusi. Anyway, my assistant, RPGmodsFan, will be discussing the adventure itself, and his video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a dungeon master who will be running this adventure for their players, or are a player who already played through this adventure and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video.
Like most adventures in Candlekeep Mysteries, Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor did not include an adventure overview or summary. Candlekeep Mysteries should have had overviews and summaries of each of its adventures. The synopsis of the adventure would be as follows. A haunted book points a ghostly finger at the perpetrators of an unsolved mass killing at Yellowcrest Manor in the city of Waterdeep. This mystery features urban and dungeon exploration, as well as a potentially new, otherworldly campaign villain. The ghost of the murdered Sarah emerges from her diary, and if the player characters have any heart, they will end up looking into the circumstances of her murder and of her death. The ensuing investigation is pretty good, as the adventurers must sleuth their way through the northern city of Waterdeep to discover clues and leads on what happened in Yellowcrest Manor 5 years ago. The clues gathered points to Greenfast, a small village that lies between Waterdeep and Daggerford, along the road called Trade's Way. Their path will eventually lead them to the temple of the Burnt Tongue cult. The said cult is being led by the former master of Yellowcrest Manor, Lord Violus Yellowcrest. He is the one who killed his family and his servants, including Sarah, and then removed their tongues as a part of a dark ritual and an unworldly pact for power. I will now go over the timeline of events for the adventure. Decades ago, before the tragic events, the Yellowcrest family were well respected with a good reputation in Waterdeep. The family owned several tanneries and cobbler shops in Waterdeep. For some unknown reason, Lord Violus Yellowcrest descends into darkness and worships an evil deity called Garno. As part of an evil and dark ritual, he murders his wife, 3 children, and 4 servants, including Sarah. Except for his businesses, Lord Violus sells the family manor and all his other possessions in Waterdeep, and then moves to a nearby village called Greenfast. He also takes the cremated remains of his wife and 3 children. A Waterdavian apprentice mage named Surok buys Sarah's diary at a street fair. He never opened or read the diary. Instead, he took it to Candlekeep and presented it as his payment of entry into the keep. Meanwhile, in the village of Greenfast, Lord Violus, with his business partner Farrell, established the cult of the Burnt Tongue. At a nearby abandoned stone tower, they built their underground temple of the Burnt Tongue cult. For the past 5 years, Violus has led and nurtured the cult. The Tradesway is a road that runs through Greenfast and leads to Waterdeep's southern gates. Along it, the cult has been clandestinely capturing travelers and sacrificing them to Garno. The adventure begins with the player characters finding Sarah's diary within the library stacks of Candlekeep. The air around the adventurers suddenly grows chilly. A cloud of vapor begins to shimmer along the nearby shelves, growing thicker around the leather-bound diary. The mist suddenly coalesces. The moaning ghost of a young woman then manifests before the adventurers. This is the grieving ghost of Sarah, one of the servants murdered by Lord Violus. The ghost implores the adventurers to investigate and bring justice to her murder and the murders at Yellowcrest Manor. The adventure has a MacGuffin reason as to why Sarah cannot communicate who her murderer was. The player characters then go to and begin their investigation at Waterdeep. They find clues and leads by investigating the former manor of Yellowcrest, which is now owned by the Falgrest family, by investigating Yellowcrest's family businesses of tanneries and cobbler shops. Questioning Sarah's former paramour, Sir Veccan, is meant to be a red herring. The clues and leads the player characters find are supposed to lead them to the nearby village of Greenfast. At Greenfast, they learn about Lord Violus and the Burnt Tongue cult. At the underground temple of the Burnt Tongue cult, the player characters have the final confrontation with the murderer, Lord Violus, and his despicable cult. I will now be going into a little bit more detail on the adventure's cast of characters. Even though this adventure is heavy on NPC interactions and role-playing, it only details out 4 characters. The rest are given only short descriptions, and most likely the Dungeon Master will need to improvise quite a number of times, especially to get the party's investigations back on track. Sarah was once a servant of the Yellowcrest family. She was one of Lord Violus Yellowcrest's murder victims. Her spirit is now bound to her diary. Although a ghost, she has no wish to harm anyone. She is the adventurer's quest giver. Sarah wants the adventurers to investigate and seek justice to the murders. Her diary recounts her tale of living mostly a humble life. She was uneducated, but her writing dramatically improves through the diary. Sarah was being educated by Lady Maria Yellowcrest. She also writes that Lord Violus was lately spending too much time with ancient books in his study. Her last entry of 5 years ago describes her seeing Lord Violus performing a contact other plane spell. To Sarah, this looked like a fiend summoning ritual, which frightened her. For those NPCs who are familiar with the Yellowcrest family, they will more or less recount the same tale. They will say that Lord Violus was away on a business trip. Upon his return, he found his wife, 3 children, and all 4 servants brutally murdered. In the aftermath of this terrible loss, the grieving lord sold all his possessions and then moved away from Waterdeep to live out his life in solitude in the countryside. Sir Veccan lives in Waterdeep and was Sarah's former paramour. The player characters can learn of Sir Veccan either through Sarah's diary or from the new owners of Yellowcrest Manor, which is the Falgrest family. He gets distraught when speaking about Sarah. Otherwise, does not know anything new that could move the player character's investigation forward. However, if he learns about Greenfast through his interactions with the adventurers, he will seek lone justice against the cult as soon as the player characters leave his house. Sir Veccan is supposed to reach Greenfast before the player characters get captured and then held prisoner at the Burnt Tongue Cult Temple. The elf Farrell has been and is Lord Violus's business partner. Farrell lives in Greenfast. Twice every 10 days, he goes to Waterdeep to check up on their businesses. At his core, Farrell is a coward. When in Waterdeep, he is escorted by 7 bodyguards. 2 of them are cult fanatics, 3 are thugs, and the remaining 2 are veterans. None of his bodyguards know of Lord Violus. When questioned, Farrell says Lord Violus is innocent of the murders and is broken up by the tragedy. Lord Violus Yellowcrest and Farrell are the villains of the adventure. Violus is a human mage who seeks to increase his arcane power. From Greenfast Village, he leads the Burnt Tongue cult. From the cult's hidden underground temple, Violus conducts evil rituals and humanoid sacrifices in the name of his evil deity, Garno. To gain power and favor from Garno, he brutally murdered his whole household. Violus has a scroll of teleportation. Thus, if the Dungeon Master wishes to use Violus as a recurring villain, then Violus can use the scroll to make his escape. Garno is supposed to be an ancient evil deity. Before now, Garno did not exist in D&D. Garno is probably the author's home-brewed evil deity for his D&D campaign. Since Garno is home-brewed, the Dungeon Master is free to replace it with his or her own big bad evil deity and cult. Like all the adventures in Candlekeep Mysteries book, this adventure starts in Candlekeep. The player characters continue the adventure by traveling to Waterdeep. The clues they find will lead the characters to Greenfast, which is a village located on the Trades Way between Waterdeep and Daggerford. A map of Waterdeep can be found in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist Adventure book. However, this map is huge. After all, Waterdeep is a huge metropolitan city. The adventure takes place only in a few areas of Waterdeep, and this map is not necessary to run it. However, I thought it helpful to show the areas that are mentioned in the Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor adventure. Oh, and by the way, I did do walkthrough videos on the Waterdeep Dragon Heist Adventure book on my YouTube channel. So, if you are interested, please check them out. The former Yellowcrest Manor is located on Delzorin Street in the North Ward of Waterdeep. It is more likely located at its eastern end. If the player characters go visit it, they will be greeted by Arnulf at the door. Arnulf is the butler to the Fallgrest family. Sir Veccan of the Broken Horn lives on Emar Street, a few blocks away from the manor. Most of Yellowcrest's businesses of tanneries and cobbler shops are located in the Trades Ward of Waterdeep. None of the workers know of Lord Violus's whereabouts. The Dungeon Master may wish to change this if the investigation is dragging. What the player characters can learn is that the businesses are being overseen by Farrell, who lives in the nearby Greenfast village. When Farrell visits Waterdeep and the businesses, he is accompanied by 7 bodyguards. If the player characters are aggressive or hostile, Farrell can also resort to calling the city guard. If the player characters express any intention of going to Greenfast, Farrell will order his bodyguards to attack the party. He will then make his escape, return to Greenfast, and alert Lord Violus. Displayed is the adventurer's map of Greenfast. It will probably be easier to decipher with the buildings labeled. Lord Violus is well known in Greenfast. The villagers describe him as a retired noble who keeps to himself. As a facade, Lord Violus is rebuilding an abandoned tower near the outskirts of the village. However, the work has been going very slowly. For the past 5 years, what Violus and Farrell have really been doing is building and finishing an underground temple for their cult of the Burnt Tongue. Building G1 is Mayor Cara Fereni's house. Mayor Cara knows that Lord Violus is gathering a group of followers. She attributes this to a bunch of bootlickers hanging on to a wealthy patron. She also knows that travelers have been disappearing along Trade's Way, which worries her. She is unaware of the Burnt Tongue cult, nor does she suspect Lord Violus. However, she does suspect her sister, Yada, is romantically involved with him. In reality, the relationship has soured, and now Violus holds her prisoner in the cult's prison cells. Building G2 is the Bulging Cauldron Tavern. Old Fargo is the tavern's proprietor. He distrusts Lord Violus and says he has a circle of sycophants, including his son, Fargo Jr. As a note to the Dungeon Master, the one thing old Fargo should also be aware of is the decrease in the number of travelers along the Trades Way. Building G3 is Lord Violus Yellowcrest's house. During the time of the adventure, Lord Violus will not be here. The house has no incriminating evidence or anything that would move the investigation further. Building G4 is Farrell's house. Within it are records of Lord Violus's businesses, but none of them appear suspicious or out of the ordinary. If the adventurers have not encountered Farrell in Waterdeep, then he will be here. Otherwise, he will be at the underground temple. Displayed is the adventurer's map of the Temple of the Burnt Tongue Cult. It will probably be easier to decipher with the areas and chambers labeled. I will now discuss some important areas and encounters within this depraved temple. Displayed is the first level of the cult's subterranean temple. Chamber number B1 is the antechamber. 2 brazens flank the entrance, burning with an unnatural aquamarine light. Pillars stand in 2 rows, each carved with the visages of otherworldly creatures. A fountain flows quietly at the far end of the room. Standing guard here are 2 grells and 4 cult fanatics. Sounds of combat in this chamber puts the rest of the temple complex on full alert. Chamber B4 seems like an office. At a glance, the books here, such as ledgers, records, registries, etc., look important, but are actually plants. If any go missing, Lord Violus then knows his temple has been infiltrated by a spy or a thief. Chamber B9 is Violus's secret library. Any information the player characters missed about the murders can be found here. Also here is a large golden urn filled with the cremated remains of Lady Yellowcrest and her 3 children. The final big boss battle pretty much occurs in Chamber B7, which is the Dark Chapel. If the temple is on alert, 3 cult fanatics will hide themselves and wait for the opportunity to ambush the invaders. At the chapel's far end is an altar that has been bloodied by 2 human sacrifices. Here, Lord Violus holds a bloody dagger and is performing a dark ritual. Guarding him are 2 cult fanatics and 1 grell. At the start of the second round, another grell will emerge. If he is still alive, Farrell will also be here. However, Farrell is a coward and he will try to flee the scene and the temple. Okay, now let us explore the temple's lower caverns level. Cavern B10 holds a gruesome sight. Here, in this ossuary, is a huge mound of charred bones, skulls, and desiccated body parts. Chamber B11 is the cult's prison cells. Being held here are Yada Fereni, who is Mayor Kara's sister, Sir Vekan, assuming he learned of Greenfast, and 4 other prisoners, one of whom is a child. Chamber B12 is the Acolyte's training room. In here are 4 cult fanatics and possibly 2 Gricks. One of the cult fanatics is Old Fargo's son. The adventure is considered completed once Lord Violus has been defeated. Learning about the activities of the Burnt Tongue cult shocks the folk of Greenfast. They will collapse the tower and seal off the entrance to the temple. If the player characters opted to capture Lord Violus instead of outright killing him, they can take him to Waterdeep to face justice. To free Sarah's spirit, the ashes of Lady Maria Yellowcrest and her 3 children must be interred onto holy ground. Waterdeep's cemetery, also known as the City of the Dead, can serve this purpose. So the author of this adventure has a wife and 3 cats. I wonder if this adventure is the author's dark fantasy to blank his wife and 3 cats. I hope not. Given all of the cult's victims, loved ones of the victims, and their acquaintances, Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor should be full of NPC interactions, many of which will need to be improvised by the Dungeon Master. Having maps of Waterdeep on hand lessens the impact of making that portion of the adventure a theater of the mind experience. It has been my experience that players appreciate handouts. Personally, I think Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor is a very good adventure. If you have any ideas on how to make this adventure even better, please share them in the comments below.
Hello again. Hulya and Kurt, here again. Hope you enjoyed RPGmodsFan's walkthrough, review and discussion of the Sarah of Yellowcrest Manor adventure. I feel so sad and sorry to what happened to Sarah, Lady Maria, and her kids. Hope you adventurers have brought Violess to the justice he deserved. Personally, I would have cut his calf tendons, so that he cannot run, then drop him in the middle of the dark forest, and let the wolves eat him.
Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. I do like feedback. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.
Thank you.